God, help my baby. Make them stop. I don't know how much his brain can take, God. Send your angelic assistance, Lord. Help him. Help him, God. Or take him to be with you. I don't know how often you have occasion to fall to your knees in excruciating prayer to your God. I had opportunity dozens of times every single day for the better part of a decade. This is my angel, Zaki. You can tell he's an angel, right? Because he has wings, he's laying in the clouds, mostly because of the cute little cherub butt. His seizures started when he was only 4 months old. By the time he was 5, he had 6 different seizure types. He had succumbed to over 500,000 seizures. By the time he was 9 and a half, 17 pharmaceuticals had failed him. Every alternative therapy had failed him. And I was praying. I was praying for something to help my baby. He was incontinent, he was in pull-ups, he didn't know his colors, he couldn't write his name. He was receiving hospice palliative services. And in fact, it was my hospice counselor who mentioned a group of brothers that were helping another family of hers. And I thought, maybe this is our answer. Is God omnipotent? Is he all-powerful? Some of your heads are nodding. You're in a room of Christians. This is a really easy answer. Except from my perspective. Is the same God who allowed my son to seize hundreds of thousands of times over the course of almost a decade, is he all-powerful? It's a little more difficult for me to sort out, but we're going to get that question answered. So welcome to Colorado. You did know there were going to be a couple of pot talks, right? Lucky me. I was raised to know that marijuana was bad, that it was evil. I'm also a byproduct of the 80s. The egg in the frying pan and the whole this is your brain on drugs, all the stigma associated with the plant. I'm a Christian, I'm very conservative, and I had to get over it. I had to do that through education. I looked at research and I studied my Bible. Did you know there are over 20,000 peer-reviewed articles in regards to cannabis and cannabinoids? I could not find book, chapter, verse that would tell me I was prohibited from using this plant to try and save my son. July 19th, 2012, we gave Zaki his first dose of cannabis oil in a syringe, just like you'd give a baby Tylenol. Took about 3 months to slowly titrate up and find his therapeutic dose. Yes, testing exists nowadays. You can know the exact milligrams that you're dosing. You can know that it's free of molds, pesticides, residual solvents. And you can even use strains of cannabis like my son uses that are not psychoactive. The science is actually pretty incredible. So I definitely used to think medical marijuana was a farce, a lie, an excuse to get high. Now, through obviously my own experience in helping thousands of families, I understand that it's not a farce. In fact, it's a medicine. Sometimes it can save a life, like it did my son's. And often, it can improve that quality of life, and that should matter to you. That's a relevant topic to the Christian leaders in our nation. How I make meaning of what happened to me for almost a decade is the Realm of Caring Foundation. And really quickly, let me answer that question. Yes, God is absolutely all-powerful. God used that plant right there. That's the exact plant they make my son's medicine from to save my son. So the Realm of Caring Foundation is a national organization. We're connected to about 25,000 families all over the world. We write checks every month, by far my favorite thing to do. Offset the cost of a therapy your insurance doesn't cover. We also have to relocate families on occasion. So yes, in 2016 in the United States of America, families are having to uproot because of their zip code and get to a state where this is legal. And then they're hostage in the state. They can't leave with their plant-based medicine. We also conduct research with a small school, don't know if you've heard of them, Johns Hopkins University. I'm reminded of a sermon that my minister gave really early on. And I don't know what the title of the sermon was then, but I know the title that I assigned to it. And this is when God told Elijah, I need you to go tell King Ahab, there's going to be famine in the land, but I'm going to take care of you. You need to go out into the desert, go by a brook of Cherith, and I'm going to bubble up water. It's going to sustain you. I'm going to send a raven. He's going to sustain you. He's going to bring you meat. He's going to bring you bread, and you're going to have water. And God fulfilled his promise, and he sustained Elijah in that way. And one day, Elijah came out, and the brook had dried up. And my soul screamed. I had identified where I was. I was standing on the banks where there should be life-giving water, and my brook had dried up, and I was begging for God to give me a compass on where I was to go next. God sent Elijah to a widow. God is a trip. The widow was gathering sticks. She was about to make her last meal. She had a little bit of flour, she had a little bit of olive oil, and he said, I need some food. And she said, I'm gathering this to make a fire for my last meal. God will choose any means within his nature, and he'll do absolutely whatever he wants. And just as he chose a raven to provide meat and bread, and a widow who was about to die to sustain Elijah, he chose the plant to sustain my son. I don't make the rules. So I want to challenge you this morning. I want to challenge you as the Christian community to change how you think about the medicinal use of this plant. I want to challenge you to change how you think, especially about the people who are using this plant. I want you to change the mood in your Christian environment. And maybe that's on a small scale. Maybe that's a dinner conversation with your immediate family, and you can tell them about Heather and Zaki. Or maybe that's a bigger, broader conversation that happens in Sunday school or at a small group discussion. But I challenge you to consider the case for Christian compassion, because we are to carry one another's burdens. And this, my friends, is how we fulfill the law of Christ. Thank you so much for your time this morning, and I especially thank you for your open heart.